So we've made it to week 9 of my 18-week series Journey to Marvel's Infinity War. Each week in 2018, I'm going to re-review one movie in the MCU in release order leading up to Avengers Infinity War. Today, we've made it to one of the most popular ones, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, if you're new to this series, here's how it works. Basically, I'm going to give a retrospective about the movie, talking about the background of where it came from. I'm going to review the movie, talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then I'm going to talk about the MCU connections and how it kind of ties together with the rest of the MCU as a whole. And then I'm going to share some of you guys' takes on the movie using the Stardust app. Before I get started though, be sure to tell me in the comment section down below, what do you think about this one? The good, the bad, the ugly. Do you think it's one of the best ones? Do you think it's overhyped? Because this one gets hyped an awful lot. Do you think that's earned or do you think that's exaggerated? I'd love to hear your take on it. Also, this video is brought to you by my supporters over on Patreon. You can see their name right down here below. Because of their support, I'm able to put the time into these videos. I'm able to upgrade my technology so the quality keeps getting better and better. Huge thank you for all my patrons for making that happen. With that said, let's get started. Before Captain America: The First Avenger even came out, the studio had started prepping the sequel by rehiring Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely to write the sequel. A year after the film came out, they finally settled down on which director they wanted, and they hired the Russo brothers to do the film. And this was surprising for a couple different reasons. They were known primarily for doing a couple of comedies and then working on Arrested Development and Community. But Kevin Feige saw the season 2 finale of the show Community, which, if you haven't seen the show, it's like an action parody send-up that's a Western involving paintball. And he saw that and he went, these guys are perfect for what we're trying to do with this genre-bending thing that has great action. And these episodes of Community had great action, as well as having the comedy and all those pieces. And that's why Kevin Feige decided to hire them. The creative team decided they wanted to go in a very different direction from the first film, which was very much a war film, to moving in the direction of a political thriller, conspiracy film, all using the storyline of the Winter Soldier. Also, looking at Captain America, they realized that because he's in a different time, he doesn't have his side characters that he can go back to, where Tony Stark can go back to Pepper, he can go back to Happy Hogan. So with Captain America, the strategy they decided to use was move in some of the characters from the Avengers into his series. So you naturally got Black Widow and Nick Fury showing up. Originally, they intended to involve Hawkeye in the story as well, but he felt a little bit superfluous as they started to develop the story, and eventually his parts were given to Black Widow in the film. Also, Jeremy Renner's schedule didn't work for the film, so he wouldn't have been able to appear anyway. Upon release, the movie was a big hit with both critics and audiences. It has an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it went on to make $714 million worldwide, with 259 of that coming from North America alone. So that's a little bit of background on the film. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. And what I love about this movie is they found a way to tell a totally different type of story that's in a very different genre that at the same time is so connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. And it has all the elements you want, whether the great action, the humor, it's all in there. But while being the 70s political thriller, espionage, conspiracy theory movie. And that's what makes it so special to me. It feels different. It really does have government stuff going on. Big reveals, secret type stuff. Like growing up, there's this movie called Conspiracy Theory that had Mel Gibson in it. I loved that movie. And you feel vibes of that, this paranoia about the government all around you, twists and turns as you watch it, and secret assassinations. I love that stuff, and they found a way to tell that inside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Along the same lines, they found a way to tell a much more grounded story. Now, you've still got flying helicopter, station things go flying around everywhere. But at the same time, most of the action is guys punching at each other. You've got a lot more hand-to-hand combat going in here than ever before. You got George St. Pierre showing up to get in a brawl with Captain America. You got machine guns, cars exploding, much more grounded, coming after, the Avengers. In the fights, the action is so well handled. From there, you've also got a story that has so many just layers and depth to the conflict throughout the film, and so much of it just goes back to taking someone like Captain America, who at his core has a good moral compass. He's a good, solid guy, and he comes from a time where the war was so clearly justified and the bad guys were so clearly the bad guys, and you take that guy that comes from such a pure place and you put him in such a confusing, conflicted place where he can't really trust even his friends, where he's suspicious of what Black Widow's up to. He's suspicious of Nick Fury. He's a part of a government that he knows something shady and suspect is going on. And that's interesting conflict because it's a guy that his background is trust government. They're the good guys. We're doing the good thing. And he's in a place at a time where you don't trust the government anymore and you shouldn't trust these people around him. And they are being dishonest and they are lying to him. All that just adds to interesting layers to it. Add to that, who's our main villain in this one? The Winter Soldier. Who is the Winter Soldier? It's Bucky, a person that shouldn't be alive, should be dead, and he's being used as a villain. And all this makes for just an interesting conflict, interesting tension throughout the whole story. And then you add that final layer on top of it, the big reveal in this movie that Hydra has kind of ran its tentacles throughout the entire government, including S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is secretly Hydra. And even our Senator Gary Shandling from Iron Man 2, he's Hydra. And this just turns the whole MCU upside down on so many levels. Like when we went into this movie, we just thought, oh, it looks like it'll be like a more serious, after some of the movies we had recently, a more serious Marvel movie. That'll be pretty cool. And we went into it, and it ends up being this kind of MCU shattering, turn everything upside down type of movie that changed the game afterwards, especially given that they have a TV show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Enormous ramifications because of this movie. That's what makes this one so special. Then you got to talk about the cast. Adding Falcon in, Anthony Mackie's so charming, charismatic in this role. This is probably the best Black Widow maybe we've ever gotten because she gets so much screen time and time to shine and be who she is, which she is a far more morally compromised person than Steve. So she's willing to do a lot of things he's not willing to do. And that adds for a little interesting tension throughout their relationship, throughout the movie. And we just get so much added to her and her character throughout the film. Then when you get Robert Redford to be in a movie like this, just brings a gravitas to the film, especially because being that he was a part of those films of the 70s and the types of roles that he's had even in the last 20 years, like with Spy Games, he brings a certain type of character that you feel that he's a shady spy guy with a moral compass that's definitely not straight like Captain America's as soon as you see him on screen. And that all those types of things are what make these Marvel movies so special. All of them. Every single one of them is impeccably cast. Just whether you're getting the legends like him or finding people that hadn't been famous before these roles, they just cast these movies so well. I love seeing Frank Grillo pop up in movies like this. All in all, wonderful cast, wonderful action, sharp humor that fits the movie. Just these little things where Captain America's writing in his little book and you look at it and it's like says Star Wars and things like that. Just great humor that doesn't overshadow the movie. The humor never compromises the tension like some of the more recent Marvel movies. Some of the humor's been so heavy-handed that it kind of undermines some of the drama of the scenes. It never happens in this movie. Very nicely balanced tone, action, drama, all the elements, very nicely done. On the mixed side, however, with this one, the big one that comes to mind is the way Bucky ends up getting handled. And really the problem isn't even this movie, it's the previous movie. And I've never felt that they've earned bringing Bucky back the way they did. Because you watch Captain America, the First Avenger, he falls out of a train in freezing, snowy weather, and they get into water. And you see it and you go, a guy would just die. He would just die. And his body wouldn't be easy to find. Even with today's technology, he would not be very findable. And so when that happens, and then we find out in this one, no, we tracked down his body and then we converted him into the Winter Soldier, that always felt too much like a retcon to me. And at the same time, I love that he comes back. I love the way he ties into the story, the conflict with Steve, the backstory to all of it, that especially when it sets up for Civil War, where Steve was the one being saved by Bucky before, and now he's the one trying to rescue Bucky, all great things. But the setup in the first film versus the story told in this one just always has felt like a retcon. Felt like they cheated to make it happen. And so I was pretty torn on that one, whether I like that or I don't like it. I like that we got the Winter Soldier. I like that it's Bucky. I wish they could have set some things up better in the first Avengers so that this one could have more smoothly transitioned. Just little hints in there. It feels like they didn't know what they were going to do, and so it's not set up as much as I would like. And from there, I will move on to the bad one for this one. There's really just one big thing that comes to mind, and it's the Zola stuff. The Zola stuff where we go into a room and we discover Zola has taken his mind and infused it into a computer. And so suddenly Zola's giving us this exposition dump, which is not a great storytelling, through a talking computer in this movie that's otherwise fairly grounded. And now we're discovering this guy that died decades ago, has been gone for decades, put himself into a computer and is talking back and forth with them. I don't think it ever fully works. And the directors have admitted that this scene was very tricky for them to figure out. Joe said this, that was a big problem actually. We spent months on that. We probably only finished that scene 2 weeks ago. That final draft of what Zola said, it changed 30 or 40 times. We're in this grounded espionage paranoid thriller, all handheld cameras, feels more real world, and then suddenly the movie screeches to a halt. You switch gears really quickly with this ghost in the machine, a character in a computer in a basement. And then Anthony says, but it's a very grounded guy in a computer. And even with them working on it for months, going through 30 or 40 drafts of it, that's the scene to me that always stuck out where I went, ooh, I'm not so sure about this scene because it's an exposition dump, because it's a talking guy in a computer, and just because it feels so sci-fi, out of place with the rest of the movie. Everything they described there, I think the end result, you see that in the movie. But that's really the only big issue that I have with this film. It's so well crafted. The action's handled so well. The tone with the drama and the humor done so nicely. It's such an interesting change of pace from the rest of the MCU that I fully understand why a lot of people have this one up top and just absolutely love this film. For me, I would give this movie an A. It's one of the best made of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that has the most consistent quality of story, tone, action, humor. All the elements come together really nicely. On an entertainment level, though, I'd only go with an 8.5, which an 8.5 is a great score. It's a really high score. But for me, this isn't one of the MCU movies that I throw in all the time that just has put an enormous grin on my face. It's a movie I go, that's an incredibly well-made movie that I really like. But I enjoy watching the Avengers more. I enjoy watching Guardians of the Galaxy more. I have more fun with Spider-Man Homecoming, though this is the better movie. And so if you're wondering how my kind of scoring system works, the letter grade is kind of the quality of the movie, and then the number is just kind of that raw emotion. How does this one make me feel? And 8.5 is a great score, so I don't want to say that as a negative. So that's my kind of take on this movie, where I put this one. From there, let's move on to our MCU connections. As I go through these, I'm going to try and list off as many as I can, but there's so many different connections in all the MCU movies to the other MCU movies. I'm going to miss a few. I'm going to miss some of the Easter eggs. I might miss even some of the big ones, but I'm going to do my best. First one that comes to mind, Captain America finally gets to meet up with Peggy at the end of First Avenger. He told her they were going to go out on a date, go dancing. And then it turns out he got frozen for 70 years. So he shows back up. They finally get to hang out. He gets to say his goodbyes to Peggy. I guess he doesn't say goodbye to her quite yet in this one. Also, we learned that Bucky didn't die when he fell from that train in Captain America, the First Avenger. We learned that he was actually swooped up by Hydra. They went to work on him, converted him into the Winter Soldier, and he's been this assassin that they've de-thought to kill people every once in a while. And that's been going on for a very, very long time. We learned that Zola has been kind of working all sorts of stuff to work Hydra all throughout the government and build up all this stuff. So when they thought they defeated Red Skull, they didn't actually fully defeat Red Skull. His mission continued onward in different ways and at different times, but it continued on because of Zola. We learned that Zola has been turned into a computer. He continued on in a very different type of way by taking his consciousness and putting it into a computer that can actually talk and interact back and forth with people. And this leads to the big reveal of this movie. Hydra has infected S.H.I.E.L.D. They have infected the United States government. They are everywhere. And thus, because of that, Hydra is kind of this big, gigantic force. S.H.I.E.L.D. has to be toppled over. We learn that senators like Gary Shandling from Iron Man 2 is a part of Hydra. And so this movie, in many ways, turned the whole MCU upside down, especially given the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This one has enormous ramifications for the MCU as a whole. In the post-credit scenes, we learn that Bucky is out kind of searching, trying to find out who he is. We also are introduced to our evil, powerful twins that are going to show up in Age of Ultron. It's kind of a bridge over to that one. Both the ramifications of this film kind of factor into that as it ties into that next film. So those are the big ones that I kind of caught. There's a lot of little things because you have Nick Fury, you have Black Widow in here. We're being introduced to Falcon. So there's a lot of things that kind of intertwine in there. If you want to throw those ones in the comment section, tell me which ones I missed. I'll try and pin some of those up at the top where I missed the big, gigantic stuff. So there was my take on the movie, some background, some talk about the connections. Here's what some of you guys had to say about Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I had a blast with this movie.
This movie is probably one of the best comic book movie of all time.
It is still, in my opinion, the best MCU movie. It is a political thriller engaged with an action movie. It is fantastic. I really enjoy Black Widow in this movie. I think this is her best appearance in the MCU.
The characters really get flushed out. I think the tone is really, really solid. It's this nice dark tone. You just have to love the Russo action in this.
This movie make me go from hating Captain America to just loving everything behind Captain America.
I love the cast, I love the story, I just love everything about this movie. This movie is perfect.
The Winter Soldier, the character himself, is just crazy, and I give it 5 stars.
It's the best Marvel movie in my opinion. Thor Ragnarok's good, Black Panther's good, the Avengers is good, but I think this is the best.
This is my second favorite movie from all MCU. They give this film some sort of a vibe of those movies from the 70s and the 80s, spy thrillers. Highly recommend this one. Very good movie. See it.
So this really is one of the most loved movies of the MCU. The people that love it really, really love this film. Hey, if you want to appear in one of my future reviews or ranking videos, it's really simple. All you have to do is download the Stardust app for your Apple or Android phone at that link down below. It's totally free, no cost, no ads or anything like that. And it's an app designed to make it so with your phone, you can record and share 30-second reactions to movies and TV shows. So if you want to appear in a video, download that app. Then with future MCU reviews or any major franchises I'm about to rank, just record your thoughts on it in the app and then tag me. Up in the right-hand corner, there's like a plus sign. Click that, throw my name in there, send it over my way. Oh, also after you download the app, follow me. I put reviews on there almost every single day. I put a lot more reviews on there of stuff that I don't review on my main channel, so you get my thoughts on even more stuff. So download the app, follow me, record your reactions, tag me in those reactions, and you can appear in a future video. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back again next week for another round where we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, but the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies, I want to talk about movies with you. So join me down in the comments section. Let's have a lively discussion about one of the most popular movies, especially if you don't love this movie, if you're kind of critical of it. I'd love to hear your take on it because that'll be fun to see that one down in there. And as always, thank you for watching.